Husband wet the bed, threw a tantrum when I told our daughter the truth, and now he's refusing to speak to me. I was, 28F, woken up this morning because the sheets I was lying on were wet. I assumed our child, 6F, had had an accident, but when I checked where the wetness came from to my surprise, turned out it wasn't her but my husband that had wet the bed. After I had taken a shower I woke him up and told him he'd wet the bed. At first he denied it, then I guess he realized he indeed had as he got this mortified look on his face, jumped right out of bed and started to try rip the bedding off. As we have pull-on sheets and our child was sleeping on the other side he didn't get them off. It looked stupid and honestly quite funny so I chuckled. He angrily told me it wasn't funny so I stopped. At that point the only thing his pulling of the sheets had accomplished was to wake up our child, who was confused and asked what was going on. He didn't say shit, just idiotically continued to try get the sheets off. So when he didn't reply I just told her he'd wet the bed. At that he just froze and looked at me with this weird look on his face, almost like he was about to cry or something. Our child asked why he'd wet the bed, and as he still was completely silent I went something along the line of that sometimes accidents happens. He just stood there staring at me. If looks could kill I would be dead, and I'm not exaggerating when I say he looked at me with pure hate. I've never been afraid of him, but for a second or two I thought he might hit me. Then he just dropped the things he'd managed to get off the bed on the floor, left the room and locked himself in the bathroom for about 45 minutes. When he came out he got dressed in a hurry and just left with saying you can take her to school. He didn't even look at me. His behavior really annoyed me but I just let him be as I didn't want to argue with him when he was in such a bad mood. When I got home from work he was still sulking, and basically ignored me. I was still annoyed with him from the morning so his behavior annoyed me even more. So I told him to get over it, that it wasn't the end of the world that he wet the bed, and to stop taking it out on me. At that he accused me of having humiliated him when I told our child. I found that utterly ridiculous on so many levels, so I angrily told him that he humiliated himself when he fucking wet the bed, not me. He didn't take that too well, and said fuck you and went off to his computer, and now he refuses to talk to me. And I just feel confused. I think he's the one that behaved poorly and immature and that I haven't done anything wrong. The last thing I said may have been harsh but I feel like he had it coming. Yet I feel like perhaps I was mean to him? Ida? Edit, I just want to clarify that I did not tell our child to be mean or to humiliate my husband. I told her because I didn't know what else to say, and as it was quite obvious what had happened I thought it was just best to be honest. I didn't tell her in any humiliating way, just as a matter of fact without doing a big thing about it. I didn't think my husband would feel that bad about it. Edit 2, for some reason someone has posted a link to a post claiming it is mine. It is not, and it has nothing to do with my husband or me. My husband do not have cancer. Update 1. I reread my original post, and there are some things I would like to elaborate on before I come to the update. I did feel empathy and I did care about my husband. I was gentle when I told him after I'd woken him up. However, his reaction caught me off guard, and the time from when he got up from bed until he locked himself in the bathroom couldn't have been more than a minute. After that I felt it was best to leave him alone. I know I was an off for telling our child, but I didn't do it to be mean or humiliate him. It was a stupid wrongful decision. I regret it. Further, it's not easy to show someone that you care when you're being ignored. I did text him after he left and asked if he was okay, but he left it on read. I asked him again when I got home but he didn't answer. I asked him if we could talk about it, no answer. I asked him if he could at least tell me why he was so mad at me, no answer. I gave up and went to make dinner. After dinner I asked him if he could stop ignoring me, no answer. I asked him if he wanted me to leave to which he replies, you can stay, I don't care. So I ask him again if he will stop ignoring me if I stay, and when he says no is when I had it. And while I don't think ignoring someone like that is okay, I know I handled it really bad. And I do feel awful for being outright mean to him. Anyway, I texted him early this morning to say that I was so sorry and asked if he was willing to talk after work so that I could apologize. He texted me back an okay around noon. We met up at home, and he understandably was cold to me when we met, didn't say much. I apologized for everything, for laughing, for telling our child, for telling him to get over it, and for the part that I'm most ashamed of that I told him he humiliated himself. He was just silent the whole time and when I was done, he just asked why I told our child. I explained and after that we just sat in silence in what felt like forever. Then right out of nowhere he went something like I scared you, right? And I told him that briefly he did. He said he could feel that. I asked what made him react so strong, but he didn't know, just said that he panicked when he realized he'd wet the bed, that it got even worse when I told our child, and that he just got so fucking angry with me for it. I apologized again for making him feel that way. He apologized for making me scared. I'm not going to go through all that we said after that, it was a long talk, but in conclusion none of us is happy with how we acted and we have both apologized for it. He wasn't that bugged about me laughing, but we both agreed that I shouldn't have told our child. However, he's no longer mad about it and doesn't think it's that big of a deal. We both think he shouldn't have ignored me like that, and that I handled it poorly and was mean. We have both accepted each other's apologies, but I still feel bad for being so mean to him. Update 2. To begin with, as there was some concerns as to why my husband wet the bed. Since he was sober, I did try to get him to see a doctor after so many of you suggested he should. but he outright refused and claimed it was pointless as they wouldn't do anything anyway. He's wet the bed one other time that I know of, and both times he was rather exhausted and stressed out, so that may have been the reason. I don't know. This is too long, so a heads up to anyone who just wants to read about my husband divorcing me, you can stop reading now. My second post was written just after I had apologized. Based on the initial response on my first post, I concluded that I must be an awful person and I felt so bad for him. But to be honest, I never felt that my initial actions were that bad, and I still don't. I'm not saying I didn't deserve any of the hate I got, I surely did, but some of it was just vile, and some of the things I got hated for never happened but in the minds of commenters. But since outcome of my actions was so horrible and I never intended to hurt him, I felt truly bad I had. So the apology was sincere, and at the time of the second post I was happy we were on speaking terms and hoped we could put this behind us. It turned out I couldn't, and shortly after, I realized I was still bothered by his behavior. I also started to receive more comments from people who saw issues with his behavior as well, which I'm grateful for as it reassured me that it was problematic. What I omitted on purpose from my first post, as I wanted unbiased opinions, is that my husband can be a bit unstable at times. Like he can be very immature and sensitive, has issues controlling his emotions, anger, and he's so damned hard to get sometimes. It's likely due to mental health issues, so it isn't fair to him and I'm awful for it, but sometimes I just find him so annoying and exhausting. I guess I got called out on that in my first post. At the time, he'd been in contact with a mental health team for years, but if it wasn't for them prescribing his medications, he would have cut contact with them a long time ago. Anyway, I was already a bit tired of always having to cater to his moods and him not doing enough to address his issues, so his weird over-the-top and threatening reaction, in my opinion, to wetting the bed and me telling our child just felt too much, even though he was hurt. And as I wrote, I had never felt threatened by him before, so it did bother me even though he didn't actually do anything. I made some attempts to try to talk with him again about what happened, especially why he got so angry that I felt threatened by it. I even asked him if it had something to do with him wetting the bed growing up, based on some theories about him being shamed for it in the comments. But he just said it didn't, and it was clear he didn't want to talk about any of it, and I didn't want to push. He's so bloody hard to talk with when it comes to stuff like his emotions or relationship issues, which can be very frustrating for me. To be honest, I even had some thoughts about whether I wanted to stay in this marriage, but they weren't that serious. Then about a week before Christmas he unexpectedly made a suicide attempt, sadly not his first. I did not see it coming, and I still feel like shit for it, probably always will. His memory the hours before is blurry, but he's adamant he didn't intend to hurt himself when he left our home that night. But I should have known. Anyway, it was bad, and for a while we didn't know if he was going to make it or what condition he would be in if he did. Thankfully he survived and did so basic, ally without any long-term effects. The time after was horrible, and when he got to come home he was so unwell he was basically lethargic for weeks. As to why he did it, the short answer is that he apparently had a hellish amount of anxiety he wanted to go away, which mixed bad with his sometimes complete lack of impulse control. He's been very clear that it had nothing to do with anything I've done. I didn't know how bad he was feeling because he didn't tell me, or anyone else, and it's so damn hard to help him when he doesn't tell us how he's feeling. It scared the shit out of me, and it scared the shit out of him too. To the point where he, finally, realized he needed more help, and he's been serious about it in a way he's never been before. So when he was offered therapy he accepted. Now the waiting time is a joke, so he will be starting in October. In the meantime he's been seeing a nurse and a psychiatrist. By April he was pretty much back to normal and went back to work. In the beginning of May we found out I was pregnant. It was definitely not planned and was a result of us fucking up when it came to birth control. Despite of all the obvious reasons why we should have terminated the pregnancy, we decided to go through with it anyway. It wasn't a decision we took lightly, but it was what we wanted. Here I can add that he was a fucking mess during my first pregnancy, and the second, apart from our 6-year-old we have a 4-year-old as well, was hard for him too. But for some reason that escapes me now, we thought it would be different this time. And it was, for a while. At 12 weeks we found out it wasn't one baby but 2 babies. I know it's awful, but I would lie if I said we were happy about it initially, but by then we were already set on having a baby, so we both wanted to go along with it. And after having digested the news, we became kind of excited about it. I'm 23 weeks pregnant now, and up until yesterday things have overall been quite good. When he got home from work, he was in a crappy mood. I thought he'd had a bad day at work, but when I asked him about it, I was served with an angry rant of how stupid we are for having the babies and that we should have aborted them. Like WTF, and when I asked why he was saying it and pointed out it wasn't a nice thing to say, he just replied, "Well, you asked and it's what I feel." I didn't want to talk with him when he was like that, so I told him we'd talk about it later. When the kids were asleep, I asked him what that was all about and where it came from. He said he didn't know in the way he says it when he doesn't want to talk about something. I tried to push a little but got nowhere, so I got a bit frustrated and told him that it wasn't fair to me to say things like that, and then refused to talk about it. He was just silent for a while, then said fuck this and went and locked himself in the bathroom. When he came out he looked sad, so I asked him if he was okay and he said he needed some air. I was like okay and added something like it's okay to be sad, you know. He didn't like that, so he very angrily told me he wasn't sad. I know I should have let him be, but I just got such a bad feeling, so I asked him to stay. He didn't like that either, so he screamed at me that he didn't want to fucking stay and slammed the door so hard it woke the kids up when he left. I couldn't do much else than tend to the children, pretend everything was fine, and hope he would return safe and sound. I was so damned worried, so when the kids were back to sleep I texted him to ask if he was okay, and then I cried. He replied almost instantly, "I'm okay. Home in 5. Sorry. Love you," which eased my worry, but I was still sad and angry. He came back shortly after. He was clearly high, so he had calmed down. He isn't addicted. When he saw I was crying, he said he was sorry. I told him I'm not okay with him treating me like that, yada, yada, yada. He said he knew and apologized again. We've had that conversation before. I realized I wasn't even angry with him anymore. Perhaps I should have been. I just asked him to please not run away like that again, and he promised he wouldn't. But he probably will. Then he was tired, so we went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I haven't been feeling that great today, to be honest. I'm scared, disappointed, and I feel fucking stupid. My husband was in a better mood when he came home today, and he's been such a sweetheart. He even talked to me. He apologized for yesterday and told me he was disappointed in himself for how he behaved, that he's been trying so hard to behave like a normal person, his words, and that he was tired of failing all the fucking time. I know he's trying and he isn't failing all the time, so I told him to not be so hard on himself. I asked him about how he was feeling, and he admitted he wasn't feeling that well, but couldn't elaborate. So I asked him how bad not that well was, and said it wasn't too bad and that I didn't need to worry, and promised to tell me if it got worse. But I don't know if I can trust him on that. I'm so fucking scared he will crash again. I'm not sure I have the energy for it, not now, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't have it either. I'm hoping so much that therapy will help him, but I'm not sure what realistically can be expected from it. What if it doesn't make a difference? What do we do then? I know it probably doesn't seem like it, as my posts have only focused on the negative, but I love my husband so much, and I don't want to live without him. But I don't want to live like this either. I don't know, perhaps I'm just overly sensitive right now, being pregnant and all. Now on to second story. Girlfriend's controlling father kicked her mother out for being nice to me. Now I'm torn between breaking up and enduring their chaos forever. I, 23 male, have been dating a girl for about a year and 3 months now. When we first got together she warned me that her parents, mainly her father, is a bit crazy. Boy was she right. When we first got together everything was good, no issues with them, and I heard good things back from her that her parents liked me. Her dad is a very straight and narrow type of guy. His way or the highway. He has a lot of control over her, she has a curfew and is not allowed to stay over whatsoever. Don't even think about it. Which I can somewhat respect considering she still lives at home etc. She's not allowed to attend any of the weekend trips that me and my family go on, even though her parents are invited to them as well. There was one instance where he did say yes, that she could go on one camping trip with me and my family. What a fuck up. We were lying in bed at night about to go to bed. We have very limited service where we are, so text messages and phone calls kinda come when they want to. She gets a text message from her mother saying to call her ASAP etc. We blast out to the road to try and gain some better cell service for a phone call. She reaches her mother and her mother tells her that she is here to pick her up. We passed by her on the way out but didn't clue in that it was her. We meet up with her mother and she says that her father sent her up here to get her. We are about 5 hours from home, so here we are thinking something terrible has happened for her to drive 5 hours to come get her, only to find out that he just wants her home and regrets saying yes to her going. We stood there and talked for roughly 2 hours and her mother insulted me multiple times for reasons as dumb as the genre of music I like. Let me remind you, her parents were invited on this trip but chose to stay home. They both end up staying with me and my family for the night. Her mother waking up and leaving before the sun rose due to fear of embarrassment. She goes home later that weekend to find that her mother is in trouble with her father because she went up there and tried to get my girlfriend to come home, which would then go against his word that she could go. Then my girlfriend was also in trouble for not listening to her mother. Sounds crazy, right? Just wait. Her mother has always been nice to me, making me coffees and sending me home with leftovers etc. Her father has always been nice to me as well, even though he always has something to say behind my back to my girlfriend for something as small as the vehicle I drive isn't a high quality long lasting Toyota. Just recently for family day I invited her family up to my father's house to go apping. Something I have done on a few occasions but they have never taken me up on my offer. This time they did. The morning of when they were supposed to come, her dad says he isn't feeling well. Which is fine, no pressure. He ends up saying he's going to pass but that her mom can still go and he will load the ATVs for her and she and my girlfriend can go together. So the ATVs are loaded, trucks packed, they're ready to leave. At the last minute he says to her that this isn't a good idea because she's never towed this specific trailer with this truck. She's been driving big trucks and trailers for over 30 years, they owned a landscaping company together. She ends up starting to second guess herself and ends up bailing too, but she still decides to come up and she will just ride one of our machines. The day goes by, we have an amazing day and she goes home to find him in a fit of rage that she went without him and all this other stuff from past experiences with her. Nothing bad, she's a very good wife and mother, he's just out to lunch. He ends up kicking her mother out for this and she goes and stays at a friend's house. Few days go by and she comes back and they talk. My girlfriend overhears them talking about me, mainly him yelling at her, and she's just listening. He tells her that she emotionally cheats on him with me because of how nice and helpful she is with me. The coffees, leftovers, etc. Turns out he doesn't like that she's nice to me because I haven't put in the work. Not sure what that means, he can't even explain it himself. I have helped them around their house many times, from yard cleanup to cooking dinner and breakfast. This is getting to the point where he's mentally abusing all of us, and he's playing mental gymnastics to get them to listen to him and go by what he says. No one's allowed an opinion or an option. He just recently said I'm not allowed at their place anymore, which is extremely hard on my girlfriend to do all of the driving. We live about an hour apart. In the past he's complained that I don't come down enough. Now I'm not allowed at all for next to no reason other than his wife is nice to me. They stopped sleeping in the same bed and he got mad at her for sleeping in the bed that I usually sleep in when I stay over there, saying that she's only sleeping in that bed because I did. He got so mad that he punched a hole in the door while she was trying to sleep. When they both listen to him and abide by his crazy rules, the house runs smooth. When they don't, it's like the sky is falling. There has been many instances like the ones I just explained over the years that my girlfriend has explained to me. Her mother has been kicked out over a dozen times for stuff as small as this. She's a battered woman. Everyone who she talks to is telling her to leave. Me, my family, her boss, her family, and even the women's shelter she called told her to leave. She won't, so I have gave up trying with her. She recently booked a trip for her and my girlfriend to go to England to see her mother. Her dad has a big fear of airplanes, so he does not fly. Over the whole family day situation, he made her cancel the trip to England, saying how if she didn't then she didn't love him. I should also mention that my girlfriend mother's mother is currently being treated for cancer and she hasn't seen her in over 10 years. She does end up canceling the trip and my girlfriend is devastated over it. Rightfully so. Anyways, here's lots more to this. This is just a drop in the bucket, but that's the main juicy stuff. Things are okay between her and I, but she always seems to get sucked into his crazy narcissistic ways, saying she's a terrible daughter and that her mother is an idiot for letting her date me, etc. I recently offered to let her move in with me to escape this, but she seems hesitant to leave them. I'm not going to twist her arm that if she doesn't leave to stay with me that I'm going to break up with her, but I frankly want absolutely nothing to do with her family anymore, and that's not healthy for her or I don't think. I feel bad leaving her over her family stuff, but I have to deal with these people for the rest of my life and I just know I won't be able to do it. I feel lost and muddy on how to deal with this. I don't see us lasting much longer if she stays with her family, because I will not deal with their stupid small bullshit issues with me and her dating. Mainly her father and her mother is just a spitting image of him due to reasons I have stated above. A lot of their marital issues are blamed on my girlfriend because her father is not approachable on anything, so her mother does it for her and that causes issues. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this much of a response. Than you. To answer some commonly asked questions, my girlfriend is 20. People keep missing it. We have been dating 1 year and 3 months approximately. We are both white. I have not broken up with her yet. I have just been considering it because of how bad things are with her family. I wasn't sure if it was right or fair of me to do that. My girlfriend is an only child and she has said previously she worries about what will happen to her parents if she leaves, especially her mom, and she thinks her mom will be blamed for her leaving, which I agree with. My girlfriend is also not the rebellious type, so I think doing something that she knows is blatantly against what her parents would want scares her up. Date 1. I took everyone's advice and sat my girlfriend down for a chat before I made any permanent decisions. Despite being on Reddit asking about breaking up with her, I would actually like to keep her around. I did what a lot of you guys suggested and explained how I'm feeling with the situation with her parents and how much it puts on me. I told her how I don't see a happy future for either of us if things don't take a drastic change. I explained how when I look at my life the most stressful part is her parents and it shouldn't be that way. I also told her that I don't feel good brining my future kids into that situation and that my days shouldn't be spent worrying about her and her family constantly and waiting for the next big blow up. She was super upset that I was at the point of ending it with her. She reminded me of how she had me promise I wouldn't ditch her because of her parents, which made me feel very guilty. I told her I love her and I don't want to hurt her, but I also need to protect myself too. She said she understands that completely and it's along that same line of reasoning for why she wants to move out, that she loves her parents but has to protect herself. She apologized several times for letting it go this far and dragging me into it. I could tell she felt absolutely horrible, which made me feel horrible in return. Something must have finally flipped for her because she asked if the offer of moving in was still on the table and I told her it absolutely was. I asked her why she changed her mind and she said that she could never look at her parents the same for being the reason she lost a good guy who she loves and that she didn't want to go backwards anymore. So she moved out, told her dad where he could stuff it, and I'm happy to say we're unpacking her stuff and getting her settled in as I type this out. She has also agreed to severely limit contact with her parents, and any contact she shows us to have with them will have nothing to do with me, and they will have no place in our lives as a couple unless we're both okay with it.